Yo, welcome to my first photography editing tutorial. I think there's going to be a lot more of these to come because I think I'm going to do it for probably almost every video I'm going to launch from here on out. I never use presets, so I start from scratch for every edit. I think that's helped me learn everything about editing. I get a ton of questions on how I edit my photos, so I think it makes a lot of sense to just start putting out these videos. I use Lightroom, which you see here, for all of my editing. And I think the main thing and the most important thing, not the most, but a very important thing about editing is to have a process. When you're going into editing your photos, have a process. And it should be formulaic. It should be the same every time. And the reason you want a process for doing edits is that a year from now you can go back to, like for me, I can go back to this set of photos and I will know exactly where everything is and why they are marked the way they're marked. It's just extremely important. I didn't have a process for probably the first year, 6 months. And sometimes I go back to my old edits and I'm like, what is, like, there's no, which ones did I use in the final? Like, why is this one edited this way and this not that way? And it's like, I'm so confused. And you can spend like 20 minutes trying to figure out what you were doing. So always have a process. And I'll just quickly go through my process. So I'll import the photos, and this one had 129 photos. And you can see some of these already marked because I did part of my process already. But imagine that there's no, everything's gray and there's no flags. And what I'll do is I'll go to library first because it's a lot quicker for me than instead of being in the develop tab. And what I'll do is I'll just flag my photos first. Flag all the photos that I like right off the bat. And this is not deep thinking. It's like, it's very quick, like boop, 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 and I'm just flagging, right? So P is flag. You press the P key and you flag it, you will unflag. So literally I'm just like, okay, flagging this one. No, not flagging that one. And what I'll do is I'll just go through and do that for all the photos. And then I have flags. And then you can filter by flags. So you're breaking it down. So now you hit the filter, which is down here. So you're only looking at filtered photos, and now we have 60. So we got rid of like more than half of our photos already. The most important part of editing is deciding what to edit. So that's what we're doing. This is part of the editing process. So let's go into the edit, guys. So we go to the develop tab. These are gonna be super stylized because this is like a super dramatic, crazy interview about like ghosts, and so this is gonna be super stylized, and it's night, so it's gonna have to be stylized. I guess we'll just start right here at the beginning. That's fine. You can see, first of all, it's crooked. We could fix that, but we can fix it later. I'm not that interested. First thing I do is just check out exposure, because you see this underexposed, and I shot it that way for a reason, to maintain the highlights here. Make sure I capture as much data as I can. So I shot for the highlights, but we're going to increase the exposure. We're not going to go overboard, but yeah, that's probably overboard, but yeah, let's go there. Let's go about there. So what I mean by stylized, we're going to give this kind of a filmic look, you know? We're going to give this like a film look, which means to me really faded, a really faded look. So to do that, the first thing we're going to do is go to the tone curve, okay? This is the first thing I basically always do. And you can hold down your Alt key, because if you don't hold the Alt key down, this will go really fast. But if you hold the Alt key, it goes a lot slower when you're pushing up. So I always hold the Alt key. I'm going to go extreme in terms of the fade. So we're pushing the fade up really high in the darks here. And then what we'll do is we'll bring down the mids so that you have faded darks, but your mids have more contrast in them. They're darker. So we'll bring it down. And you can play with the fade. So like, look, as you push the fade up, it gets more intense. We're going to really fade the heck out of these. Okay, guys? Whoa, I clicked a weird button there. We're going to fade the heck out of these. Probably like there. And then bring down the mids. This is just eyeballing. This is going to be a process, guys. And then we push the highlights back up. So you're gonna really brighten the highlights, but fade the darks, okay? So it's like an S curve, but with a massive bud on the end. And yeah, let's see. You can drop the mids a little more. Right? You can see what it would look like without the fade, right? But I'm really gonna fade the heck out of these. Probably around there. Let's see. Just a quick undo. Yeah, we're gonna even more fade, just like that. That's a good starting point. Now it is kind of bothering me that this is crooked. We're not gonna get it perfect because I don't want to spend too much time on it. But it is a little crooked, so that's good enough. Actually, I don't like that at all. We'll deal with that later. We'll deal with that later. I don't want to look at it. So the next thing I do is, I think I'm going to go straight to the color grade. Obviously, one of the most important things is color grading here. So now that you have a fade, you can start to think about what color you want in your shadows. So I always toggle by 3. So you're going to have your shadows, midtones, and highlights. So you might, when you look at it, it might look like this, but you want to click on your shadows because you have a lot more control when you do each individual channel separately. So when I think about old like filmic look, I think about like green shadows, and this is going to look real ugly, but you're going to push up your greens pretty hard. It might change to yellow or red, I don't know. But what you'll do is you'll bring down the balance here, or bring up the balance a lot. And what that does is it lowers the range that your green is going to show up in your shadows. So you can see if you lower it a lot, you're going to get green across your whole dynamic range. But if you push it up all the way, you barely see any of that green in your shadows. You want to find a middle ground where it looks good to you. I mean, this is where like the feel of your edit comes in. So you want, for me, like I want it to be present, but you don't want it to be overwhelming like this. See, that just looks a little ugly. You want it to be present, kind of like there. 77, 78, that looks about right. And then what you can do is just change your hue and see what you like. So as you change your hue, you can see it going towards red, yellows, greens, blues. I mean, it's really up to you what vibe you want. And for me, it's all visual taste. Like this is where your eye comes in. We can go really red. I kind of like this, like right around here. You don't want to go too red. Right around here looks good to me. And then what you can do is play with the saturation. So saturation all the way down. And as you push it up, you'll get more of that green, yellow tone in your shadows. So that looks pretty good to me. Might be a little red. And then mids I usually go red, but for night shots, it's different. So let's just see. And this, okay, the other thing I like to do a lot is you can click this little eyeball here and it will mute only the channel you're on. This will mute, the top left one will mute your whole color grade. This bottom right one will mute the channel. So like, let's say you go hard on this channel, right? And you're like, oh, which do I like better? Without or with? With just this channel, okay? That's what the point of that is. So yeah, it looks like the mids are going to be different here than red. It's almost like we want to take some of this red out. So some of the reds and yellows, see how it's a little cleaner? Like it's a little cleaner looking in your mids. You push it up a little bit. It takes out some of the yellow out of the mids, which I kind of like because it looks cleaner for sure. And then we're going to go back and mess with this, but this is just how I always go first draft. Think about this as a first draft. And okay, highlights for me are all about, see, night shots are so different. Because if this is day, then highlights to me is all about white balance. But there's so much ambient colors and lights in this that highlights, like the white balance doesn't matter as much because it can be stylized so much. And no one, like, see how, like, it can be stylized, meaning your white balance doesn't matter as much because there's all of these, like, red lights, and it's making the skin tone a different color. So really, it can be, you can be, like, your creative license is so much higher when you're dealing with these, like, neon lights and stuff. Because if you had, like, bright red skin like this, and you didn't have neon lights on you, then you'd be like, what the heck? You know what I mean? But you just have like way more creative license when when there's like extreme elements like this. And so you can push up the saturation. You can see how the whole vibe changes. Like it pushes out a lot of the yellows. You're getting a lot more pinks in here, which I kind of like. I'm kind of liking it, like right there, which is heavy. It's heavy on the, it's kind of heavy, but also it's pretty rad. So now I'm just looking on the left side here between the +9 I give it and the last saturation. So if you hover over, you can see what it looks like. And then you go to this one and see it's like before and after. So do we like it more intense red, or do we like it when it was a little more yellow on the skin? And I'm kind of liking the yellow for sure. We don't want it too red. Now at this point, I like to go back to my shadows and just see what we can do. Like, is this really where I want the shadows to be? Pushing more green kind of looks cool now. So, and you can also play with the hue just to make sure you're dialed in where you want it. And then I always go back. I like hover over the highlights, see what it looks like, and then go, do I like that change? No, I don't. So then I just clear the history. I just go back to what I had before. Then I like, here's another good time to just go back to your curve and just play with it more. Now that you have like colors in, do we want more fade, less fade? I think more fade. More fade is good. These are looking crazy. And then push up the highlights a little more. These are looking wild, bro. These are looking wild. Push exposure and just see what the difference is. 0.06 makes a big difference. Big difference. I think it looks pretty good. So in terms of vibrance and saturation, I usually am very light-handed on these, especially on these night shots. You can see it's like, these night shots are so different than my day shots, because when you push up vibrance on like a natural skin tone, it's gonna change it so much more than if you have this very stylized look, right? It's good. We can push saturation. All you're gonna get is like really bright oranges, you know? So, but you can see actually you push up saturation a little bit, and we do need some saturation. You can tell just by pushing. But this is like a blunt object, the saturation. I think what I always use, almost 100% of the time, is calibration, which allows you to push saturation by your primary colors. By red primary, green primary, and blue primary. So you can actually adjust saturation a little more strategically, and you can see how pushing saturation changes the highlights a lot. So red, I don't think we're even going to touch red, but maybe some green. And then again, you can hit this little eyeball to see before and after. And see, I don't like the saturation on that. This +4, very minuscule. That might work. I kind of dig low saturation though on these night shots, because really all it does is like push these lights a little hard. That's acceptable. See, very small. Almost, you're never almost going to even see that. The photo's still probably dark actually, now that I'm looking at it. The thing is, we want it a little dark because we're shooting at night, so you don't want to like blow it out, you know, but also you need some exposure there. So this is a good like starting point. So here's the raw. If you hit the backslash key, / maybe above the enter, you click that, you can see the raw. So this is what we started with. Here's the edit. It's okay. It's not the end, but from here what I'll do is I'll just copy, so Control C, and then I'm just going to copy everything. I don't ever copy the crop or transform because every photo is different. And we're just going to copy it, and then we're just going to start pasting it into our photos. And you can see the main problem you're going to run into, if you're in the same location, they'll usually paste pretty well, but you can see like the exposure was a little too much, so you're going to run into issues like that. But for these, you can, I mean, just pasting these looks, yeah, I don't really like this skin tone. Very orange. Yeah, now that I'm looking, yeah, we got some work to do. This, it doesn't look too bad. But once you zoom in a bit, the orange is a little off-putting. So The thing is, we're just going to paste it. We're going to be okay with it for now. We're going to paste it across all of these. And then we're going to do another round of filters. Like that is overexposed. And then what we'll do is we'll turn the yellows into greens. Yeah, the skin tone's up. I'm not feeling it. Maybe we should just fix it now. Maybe we should fix it now. And you can push the mids up a bit. It might be the highlights, honestly. No, it's not the highlights. It might be saturation, actually. Yeah, we're not going to be able to fix this with... Yeah, some of these are difficult. Kind of added more glow. I kind of like that. I changed the hue of the shadows and kind of dig it. You know, some of it might honestly just be orange saturation. So you can literally go into your color mixer and just pull orange down. And you can see how that orange, see? And that's exactly what we needed. It was just too orange, so we dropped it by 16. You can see the difference. You can actually see a little bit more color there, except for orange. So we'll just leave it there for now. It's not going to be perfect. It's not ready to ship, but it looks all right. And yeah, the main thing you have to adjust here, just for these, since they're all like similar. Now, if I was changing locations, you can't just copy edits, you know, and paste them and expect it to work. Like, you're going to have to start from scratch a lot. But for these, they're all like similar, so we can just throw them in. What we'll do, these are overexposed. I'm just going to copy again here with the lower exposure. And so these paste a little better. That's a rad shot. You know, you might be able to go into library and paste. Sometimes it doesn't work for me though. See, I just paste it. It doesn't freaking work. You have to be in develop for it to work. But it used to work that way. But my computer's just slower. That's a good photo. Like, you can see some like really good photos here, like compared to others, and that's the whole point. Like, this is a little stiff. We're not going to use that probably. We probably won't use that either. It looks a little too unnatural, a little too posed for me, you know. I just copied the lower exposure there. We're just gonna go through all these. Yeah, guys, this is gonna be a long video, you know. It's not, the process is not quick. So just fast forward. See, this is a different location, and I think the edit probably needs to be redone for these. That's a good smile. I think this is the smile we're gonna want to use. It's interesting the shadows kind of take on a blue hue on this edit here. And here's another location, which you can see is not gonna work either. Well, some things will work, like the tone curve might work, right? But we might have to adjust the color grade, you know. So just know that, like, sometimes pasting makes sense because, you know, the other settings work. It's just the color grade that needs adjusting, which is the case here, I can tell. You know, we aren't going to really have to adjust. I mean, the tone curve might be a little off. It might be a little too faded, honestly. Okay, this one's going to require a different edit probably, but this photo's freaking rad. Yeah, so we probably are going to do a very unique edit on that one, or whatever, standalone edit. Damn, yeah, that's a good shot. We got a lot of, that's good. We got a lot of good stuff. Okay, that's a crazy photo. I love that photo. We need to re-edit them though, because you can see it's just the highlights are blue-ish, and this photo's insane, dude. I really like that photo. You can see the highlights are blue. It gives a blue skin tone, bluish white. Okay, so that's all the photos. This is what's gonna happen next is I'm gonna finish the video. The video is actually finished. We'll export the photos. They aren't done yet, but we're gonna export them. So Control Alt Shift E. All right, so we exported the photos, and what I do is I just drag them in, and then we have all of our photos here, and then we just pull them down. And what I'm gonna do is make editing decisions based on the music and what the vibe is, and then I'll come out with like 8 or 9, and then I'll go back, and then I'm gonna re-edit. I have this thing called remote monitoring, so I go to workspace remote monitoring, and you can look at what the photos look like on your phone. So I can do like a cross comparison, make sure they look good on my phone. I'll make adjustments to exposure, white balance, the curves, but overall that's basically it. I'm not going to show you guys the final product because it's just small adjustments I'm going to make from here with the curves and color grading. So I don't think it's worth showing more of that. But yeah, this was my process. The first video a little clunky, but also you get an idea. I'll be back with a lot more of these. So thanks for watching. I'll catch you later. Peace.